Today I'm interviewing the one and only Neil Benn. Neil is an BAFTA nominated producer and director. He is a professional speaker, so an absolutely incredible videographer. So I'm just waiting for Ben to come into the broadcast. Hi, Neil.
All right, sorry about that. Technology and all. Isn't it amazing how you get it to work 1 minute and the next minute it doesn't? But hey.
Don't worry, we've got lots of people coming into the broadcast, Neil. I've just interviewed you. You're a BAFTA nominated producer and director. You're a professional speaker who likes to use a lot of comedy and an awesome videographer. Welcome to Brilliant Speaker.
Thank you, thank you. Can I just clear you up on one thing? I'm not a videographer. Let me explain.
Tell the audience.
A videographer is someone who operates a camera. I can operate a camera, but it's one of about 15 or 20 things that I do. Okay? So I'm not a videographer, but I can operate a camera.
Well, you tell the audience a little bit about what you do, Neil.
Okay. Well, I'm an award-winning producer-director, nearly 30 years working in television and video production. Started off in BBC Schools Television in 1989. I know I don't look old enough, but there you go. Yeah, educational TV. I left the BBC in the mid-90s to go freelance as a director. Directed everything from Teletubbies to poker programs. And then set up my own small video production company focusing on kids and animation stuff. So I made lots of little kids animations and stuff. And then about 7.5 years ago, I had to kind of stop all that. I was at the top of my game. I'd just been nominated for a BAFTA. Became a single dad, which made it rather difficult to work the long hours in telly. So I kind of packed everything up and then used my skills as a producer director to help businesses with videos. And over the last 7 or so years, I've been doing a lot of that. I've been teaching people how to make their own films and was nominated. I got an FSB award for business innovation for the innovative approach that I have to helping business owners use video, because I was a video production company that avoided shooting video, which is kind of unusual. And it was actually through working in business that I started doing a lot of talking, but we'll talk about that, I guess, a bit later. And really, really recently, my kids are now teenagers, so it's a lot easier. I am now relaunching my broadcasting career, so I'm going back into creating kids animations. I'm working on a comedy drama series idea. I'm not quite sure whether it's a Netflix, a Channel 4, it might even be a feature, but I'm developing ideas and scripts and content again. And I'm doing a lot more of the training films with improv actors, drama and comedy. For me, making any content that you make, if it's not engaging, there's no point in making it. It could have the best information in the world, but if people are falling asleep because it's so boring, there's no point. So for me, getting the engagement first is the most important. So that's a little potted history.
Well, I couldn't have done any better than that as an introduction. That's why I asked you to do it yourself, because I would have found that a bit tongue-tied there. We've got lots of people joining the broadcast. So hi, everyone. Hi, Raymond, Halal, lots of people joining. Please give Neil some hearts. Please share the broadcast, because he's going to be sharing lots of great content today. And if you've got any questions, please type them in the comments and we will answer them. So, Neil, I'll jump into the questions. I want you to share your story of where you've come from into television and then how you've ended up as a public speaker.
Okay, how long have we got? All right. The story starts when I was 11. Okay, once upon a time. Do you remember? I don't know if you're old enough to remember, or some of the people watching will remember, a Kiss TV program called Crackerjack. Do you remember that?
I've heard of it.
You've heard of it. It was a Friday afternoon program. It started at 5 to 5 in the evening, and it was a kids' entertainment series, and it was shot at the BBC. And for my 11th birthday, my parents got tickets so we could sit in the audience. And Slade were doing a double header. So Slade, an 80s band, kind of glam rock, and they were my favourite band at the time, were on. And so obviously I was really excited to see them. But as I sat in the studio and looked around, I looked at the lights and the cameras and the floor manager and everything. I thought, this is where I want to work. This is what I want to do. And so what I did, I wrote to the BBC after it. And I said, I went to Crackerjack, I saw it. I want to make TV programmes for you. And they invited me to join a school party for a tour around the BBC. And I turned up with my mum a couple of weeks later, and the school party didn't turn up. So we got a private tour around the BBC. So we went to the Top of the Pops studio, we went through the prop store, we saw the Daleks, props, we saw the TARDIS, and for an 11-year-old, this was pretty amazing. And I go back to school and we have a careers fair because, that time it was a transition between primary and secondary school. And you start thinking about what O levels. I mean, it was so long ago. It was O levels, not GCSEs or whatever they are now. I don't know. And I said, well, I want to work in telly. And the careers advisor say, no, Neil, television is too difficult to work in. It's risky. It's difficult. Do maths, do physics, do computer science. So I'm a good boy. I do what I'm told. And I end up with a computer science degree, and I'm working in the IT industry. But I still want to make TV programs. So I'm doing children's theatre, directing and writing in children's theatre, and I'm presenting radio shows on Great Ormond Street Hospital Radio. And one of the girls who worked at the radio station also worked for the BBC, and she would bring in Ariel, which is the internal magazine. And I saw an ad in the back of the magazine for their computer department, which I was qualified for. I applied for it, I got an interview, and they offered me the job. So I got into the BBC with the skills that I had. That was step one. It only took me 14 years from the time I decided I was going to work for the BBC for it to start. And then I spent the next 2.5 years doing two jobs. The one they were paying me for, and then sitting in studios, training producers. I was answering the telephones on the Saturday morning live and kicking show every Saturday morning, also answering the telephones at Children in Need. And I took a week off and of holiday and worked on Blue Peter. Lewis Bronze, who was the editor at the time, really liked me because I kept having interviews, and he said, Neil, we really should have you working, but the powers that be could never see how a computer scientist could make TV programs, very blinkered. So I took a week off and I followed this producer. I wrote the opening to the Halloween program, which it was done at live. And I asked Richard, who was the producer of the program, I said, do you have your pantomime this Christmas? Because I could write it for you, because that's what I do. And he said, oh, we've just commissioned someone to do that. Anyway, a couple of weeks later, I bump into him in the canteen, and I say, how's the panto going? And he said, the script is shit. Am I allowed to swear on this? The script is not very good at all. I said, okay, I'll have one on your desk tomorrow morning. And I stayed up all night and wrote the pantomime for them, and they went with it. So from then on, I was the guy that written the Blue Peter pantomime, rather than the computer scientist to get. And I just, BBC schools were looking for somebody to help make maths programs. Half my degree was maths. And once I proved that I could do it, then the two kind of mixed, and I was loaned from the IT department to BBC schools. And that was December 1989, and I never went back. So it's just a story of determination. I decided that that's what I was going to do, and no one was going to tell me I couldn't do it. And that's what I did.
What strikes me about that, Neil, where you said about when you were younger and people were saying, oh, that's too hard, don't do it.
Yeah.
If you listen to other people, they would crush your dreams. I had this when I was younger. Don't do drama, don't try and do television because you need to get a proper job. And as a child, I think we should encourage people to just go out and follow the dreams.
Absolutely. And you see, the thing is, I've learned my determination has come from when I'm very, very little. I mean, you can probably see that I'm not normal, whatever that. You've got a slight disability. I've got a bone missing in my neck, and my spine is slightly curved. So it's different. And I was forever being little as I was growing. I was in and out of hospital being checked and seeing how I was growing. And doctors and nurses would say to my parents over my head, "Oh, he won't be able to do that. He won't. Oh, it's going to be." And I was a 7-year-old, and I was thinking, what do you know about that? This is my body. I make the decisions of what I can and can't do. So from a very little age, a very young age, as soon as somebody told me I couldn't do it, the reaction was, I'm going to prove to you that I can. So that kind of was triggered when at 11 they said, no, don't do that. It was like, I'm going to show you, I'm going to prove it to you. Now, there are drawbacks of that, and I may come on to that later as we talk. And it's quite interesting because the stuff that I'm talking to you about now is what's feeding into my talks. So, but we'll talk about, I'm sure we will at some point. But yeah, it's that determination and absolutely believing. And no one knows what you can or can't do except yourself.
Well, that's what really stands out about your story. You've gone out and you've got it. You've written that letter. That's what got you open doors. And that's what really strikes me, that you're determined and you go out and get your dreams. Let me just see who's commenting here. We've got Jane Amir saying she remembers that, meaning the programme Crackerjacks.
Yeah, you deserve a Crackerjack pencil.
Please show Neil some hearts. He's got an amazing story. Please share the broadcast. He's going to be sharing some great content. That brings me on to the next question, Neil. You use a lot of humour in your speeches, comedy, humour. Can you tell us how important do you think it is to have some humour in your speeches?
For me, it's absolutely critical that humour is used. And like I said earlier, if you do not engage people, it doesn't matter how good your content is, they're not going to listen. I remember when I was working in IT, because I did have to work in IT for a while, and I was doing a conference, and we were all in teams, and one of us had to report back to the conference the finding of the team. And there are 4 teams, and for 3, I was one of the people talking about our group. The other 3 were droning on and on about this computer connects with that computer and that Wi-Fi. It wasn't even Wi-Fi then, that cable. And it was like everyone was falling asleep. I came on with a pom-pom trick and say the yellow pom-poms. And I used that to relate to the interconnectivity of computers. And everybody was sitting up. Everyone was engaged. Everyone was listening. And I got my point across. And so you have to find a way to engage people. And I've also learned this in television. One of the very first series I worked on in schools was a co-production between the BBC and the Children's Television Workshop. It was called Square One Television. Now, Children's Television Workshop, they're the makers of Sesame Street, right? They're the world's best at combining entertainment and education. And I was writing some sketches, and the scriptwriters flew over from New York. And I'd written this sketch about graphs, and it was Al Malone and Bugsy Capone were looking at the illegal licorice market. And Al was going through his figures with his accountant. He couldn't understand it all because there's too many figures. And he said, I'm going to call the boys in on you. And the accountant says, yeah, but who are you going to call? Graph busters. And these kids run in and spray graphs all over the wall. and yeah, that's right. You're laughing. You can see it. And the script editors from New York came over and say, Neil, we really love this story. If you can make the punchline of your script or your talk coincide with the point you want to make, people will remember it. Because people remember a feeling and then they associate the information with the feeling. If you have no emotion in your talk, people aren't going to remember it. They might remember some facts, but after a while it will disappear. So humor, I use humor. Now, if you're not natural at using humor, it could backfire. But you can tell stories, you can use dramatics. You need some kind of emotion in a story so people can feel something, and when they feel something, they connect with the information that you're telling, and then they remember. But I use humor because that's kind of what I do.
Well, I agree with you. I do think humour's important because it breaks the ice with the audience. It cheers up the room a little bit, and I do agree with what you're saying about emotion as well. Definitely good to show
Yeah, and
emotion.
but it's not always about breaking the ice. I mean, let's say you're talking about really difficult subjects. You know, you might be talking about, I don't know, death of somebody or something. It might not be appropriate to use a joke, but you can always, life is, if you look at life in certain ways, it's so funny. So it could be observational stuff that people think, oh yeah, yeah, I do that, and then they laugh at themselves because they recognize something. So you don't need to be telling a joke, but you just need moments that people can react to. It's about getting a reaction.
Yes, I agree with that. I think sometimes as well, if you are telling quite a serious speech, you're wary that you don't want to bring the audience down too much. So it's nice to bring in a bit of humour sometimes just to lift the room back
Yeah,
up again. We
yeah.
have, I'm going to try and pronounce this. She is my friend, but she's got a very difficult name to pronounce. Chris Valanto says thumbs up, Neil, and she's giving you some smiley faces.
Well, that's very kind of her. Thank you very much. Get them in the post to me.
Please,
That would be even nicer.
please share some hearts for Neil. Please share the broadcast, and if you've got any questions, please do ask them. That brings me to my next question, Neil.
Okay.
What tips do you have for speaking success? It can be a hard industry at times, especially for new aspiring speakers or established speakers that are feeling stuck.
Don't try to go too big too quick. Get the practice. So, if you think, okay, I want to do some speaking, don't get yourself a 20-minute booking. Don't get yourself an hour booking. Get yourself a 5 minute, or go to some networking events, for example. So if you're talking in a business arena, for example, make sure you can stand up and do your 1 minute pitch. You've got to practice presenting and being able to get a message across. Now, if you can get a message across in a 1 minute elevator pitch and people engage, then do a 5 minute, and then build it up that way. Um, I also I don't now, but I used to practice a lot. I mean, I remember when I finished working in telly, because I had to stop doing that and started going into running a business. I did do a lot of networking, and when I started doing my 1 minute talk, I was quite nervous, so I would write it down and I would rehearse it and I would practice it. And it's the same. I mean, it's similar techniques to if you're presenting to camera. Um, you just need to kind of do it so much so the words are ingrained, so you don't actually have to think about the words, and you can actually connect with the audience. If you've written something and you're not confident with it, and you're standing there with your notes like that, and you're more interested in the words on the page than the audience out there, you're not going to connect with them. So it's about practicing and building up that confidence so that when you do stand up, yeah, get a minute without a script. Once you've done that, do 5 minutes without a script. Once you've done that, do 20 minutes, and after that, it's easy.
I think they are great words of wisdom to get the practice. Don't try to go too big at first. Just get that practice in. That is really great words of
Yeah,
wisdom.
and also what you can do. I mean, we're recording this on a phone. We're doing this conference. Smartphones have great cameras. Stick the camera up in front of you. Do the talk as if you're doing it out there. Film it on the camera and watch yourself back. And you learn really quickly by watching yourself back what you're good at and what you're not good at. And then you can change that. It's also about the talk that you're doing. Where are the gaps in energy in the talk? And then you can play with your script. I mean, I'm sure you're gonna. I mean, I started doing stand-up comedy a few months ago, and I always try to at least get an audio recording, if not a video recording of my acts, which I can exactly do that. I can watch back and see what's working, what isn't working, so the next time I can get rid of the stuff that isn't working and replace it with better stuff.
Again, great words of wisdom. I know I used to have to practice a lot to video and in the room to myself. Practice, practice until you can't go wrong.
Uh-huh.
We've got Chris Charles saying, sorry, Mark, I couldn't make Telford. That's no worries, Chris. You can come to the next time I'm speaking. Please share some hearts for Neil. He's sharing some great wisdom today. Please share the broadcast. Comment if you've got any questions. That brings me to my next question, Neil. You use humour a lot. Do you ever get scared that no one's going to laugh?
That is a very interesting question. And what's interesting about that, I don't get scared that people are or aren't going to laugh, because I kind of know if it's funny or not. But every audience is different. So I could tell a joke or tell a story with a punchline that one audience would be falling off the chairs with their eyes streaming, and the other audience will just kind of politely laugh. I do very silly comedy. So I've got this joke. I think it's about time we address the elephant in the room. And then I take out a cardboard elephant. Here he is. Oh no, it's okay, I've already addressed him. And on the other side, there is an address. It's very silly. Now, yeah, and you're giggling, you can see it, and it's a visual joke. Now, I always get a bit of a laugh, but I was doing a gig a couple of weeks ago. One guy, he thought about it, and about 10 seconds after I told the joke, he absolutely lost it with laughter, and he actually got up onto stage and shook my hand. Now, that joke is just a joke, and people will relate to things differently. You shouldn't expect to get a laugh for anything, but the more you do your talk, the more you will see where the laughs are, and you can allow for the gaps and allow for the audience to react. So one thing I've learned through doing stand-up comedy, I mean, it's not speaking, but it's connected with, you have to let the audience know that it's a joke and there's time to laugh. So if I've got a 5-minute set for the comedy at the moment, and it's expanding. If I start my next joke right off the back of the previous joke, the audience don't have time to laugh. They're being polite because they want to listen to the next joke, so they don't laugh. So pauses are as important as the words. And like I said, when I started doing the comedy, yes, I was nervous, and I was like a joke delivery system. It was like, just get the jokes out, just get them, and then get off the stage, which is like some speakers are. They just want to get their words out there, and then they can get off stage. No, you've got to be able to breathe in it. You need to have the time. You need to give the audience time to absorb what you're saying. And that is where the skill of the comic timing comes. So I don't know if I've answered your question or not, but I know when I'm nervous, which doesn't happen that often, but when I am nervous, I rush. So you just got to breathe, you just got to calm down, and you've got to command the stage. You're on that stage, you've got the microphone. The audience are there to listen to you. It's your job to communicate to them. It's like, and most audiences are going to be great. I mean, I did a gig 2 weeks ago at the Comedy Store in London. Okay, it's the biggest venue in London you can do, and it was a thing called King Gong. So it's for stand-up comedians who aren't established, and they give 3 audience members a red card. And the idea is, if they don't like you, they lift the red card up. You get 3 red cards, you're off, whether you finished or not. And if you get to 5 minutes, then there is and they have 30 comedians in one night, and only 4 or 5 will make 5 minutes. You could perform at the Comedy Store. So that's the only way you can get to perform there properly. The audience were already booing and in a real foul mood even before I was announced, because I was the last one before the interval, and they wanted to go to the bar. Now, I lasted 1 minute and 4 seconds. And it's a lot longer than some of the comedians, I can tell you. But I learned so much from doing that, because what I did, I allowed the audience to affect my performance, and I started rushing it, and I started trying to appease them rather than trust my material and trust my delivery. And of course, because I was trying to do something to appease them, I didn't do it brilliantly and I didn't last. The comedians that lasted the 5 minutes were the ones that stood on the stage, had the microphone. This is my arena. This is my stage. And you're going to listen to me and you're going to laugh. That was the attitude they had. So as a speaker, you've got to go on stage with that attitude. I know what I'm talking about. I'm sharing great wisdom. These guys are going to get lots from me. So I'm going to share it, And so, yeah, I don't know if that was answering your question, but hopefully there's stuff in there that's valuable.
You definitely answered my question. It is so true that you can do one joke at one place and the room will roar, and then you can do it somewhere else and you only get a slight chuckle, and then in your head you think, oh, that didn't work quite as well as last time.
And you know why it doesn't work? It's often, if you're really, really honest, it's often down to me as how I delivered it and how I didn't sense what the audience needed or didn't need. Now, there are sometimes cultural things and people just don't understand it, but I would say 80% of the time, it's my responsibility if they don't laugh, not theirs. So if people say, oh, that was a bad audience, then no, they're kind of blaming something and they can't do anything about it. You can only change the way you deliver stuff and that will change the results.
Well, I'm loving your words of wisdom today, Neil. You really are talking honestly, and I can only imagine the feeling of being buzzed off after a minute and so many seconds, and especially going on knowing the crowd have riled. I mean, that must have really set in the nerves.
Well, yes and no, but you know what? And this is an attitude, and it's all about mindset. I thought about it, and I said to some of the other comedians beforehand, because we all get sat in the same place. We're corralled. It's almost like the Romans sending, the slaves to the lions. That's kind of how it felt. Um, it was entertainment, and I looked at it and I said, the entertainment tonight is about the audience having power, and if they get pleasure and entertainment from gonging me off after a minute, they've had the entertainment and I've done my job. So, and I'm going to go back and do it again at the end of November. I'm going to get to I will get 5 minutes and I will get on, again, it's that determination. It's like looking at what didn't work, learning from it, changing it, be better next time.
And that's why you're a winner in life, because you review, refine, and go back out and do it all again.
You have to accept feedback. Most people get really defensive. Well, not most people. A lot of people get defensive when people are offering feedback. And that if you start saying, no, 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 and you know best, you can only be as best as you can be because you know best. If you're open, you listen to the feedback and you take it on board, then you can be better because you're expanding rather than cracked. If it's just, I'm going to do it my way, I'm not listening to anybody else, I'm like that. That's all you're going to be doing. You open up to the new possibilities and you're expanding and you're growing.
You'd never grow if you didn't take feedback and improve on what's been
Yeah.
given back to you, I think. So, yeah, I agree with you totally
But it
there.
also, and at the same time, don't believe everything people tell you. It's a really, because
Don't
if
take
people
it
say, well, that was
personal.
rubbish, because often people's feedback has their stuff in it as well. So you've got to be very careful about picking out and use the bits of feedback that are useful for you to improve what you're doing and ignore the stuff that doesn't help. So all the stuff that's pushing you down and say, yes, look, so let's say I've just done a 20-minute speech and someone says, I found that really boring. Well, that's not helpful. But if someone comes back afterwards and says after your 20 minutes, it said, the bit you talked about your school time was really interesting, but that little bit in the middle when you were talking about trying to get into the BBC, do you know what? It just went on a little bit too long. I wanted to hear more about ... That's great feedback because then I can look at balancing the speech a bit better. Do you see what I mean?
Definitely. I think don't take things personal and just take what bits are going to work for you, because it
Mhm.
would be so easy to take it really personal and then not feel great about speaking.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I definitely think to grow, you do have to take the feedback and
yeah,
take which bits are going to help you best. So,
yeah.
Neil, you're giving us some great tips today. Please share some hearts for Neil. Please share the broadcast. If you've got any questions to ask, please type them in. I've got something I want to ask you, Neil. You're not expecting this. I
I make it up anyway, so don't worry. I'm gonna go on.
I
Ask me.
speak about self-leadership and transformation. Can you
Okay.
tell me what self-leadership and transformation means to you?
Self-leadership, did you say? I've never heard that term before, so I don't know if I can, but transformation I do get. So self-leadership, well, maybe I'll get an answer come to me, but transformation is, um, I guess the best way for me to explain is through an example. Um, I do a lot of work on myself. So I have to go through difficult things. Sometimes stuff are tough, and at the other side, I come out as something better and something bigger as me. So that process of, so like going to the gym, it's hard work pushing against those weights, but I'm transforming my body in the process. And I have to do the same with my will or my character or my personality. I have things to push at, and you transform through that. Self-leadership, I guess, and this is me guessing, literally guessing, um, I will be in control of that. So I'm the one who's leading myself in that transformational journey. Not always easy. It's always better to have a guide with you and someone supporting you, or someone who's already been through that, so that they can help you with your transformation. And sometimes when you're stuck in something, it's very difficult for you to see what's working, not working, so someone outside to reflect back. But something like that, I don't know.
That's
That's
beautifully put. I absolutely love that. I think you couldn't have answered it any better, Neil. Let
mhm.
me come on to my next question then. It's exciting times. I'm excited about all these animation movies that you're
Yeah,
doing, and I'm really
yeah.
looking forward to those. And I know how passionate you are about them too. Can you tell me what's new for Neil and what you're working on right now?
Okay. Using your word transformation, I'm doing a transformation from, and I'm right in the middle of it, from what I've been doing the last 7 or so years, which was surviving. I have been just about surviving, doing some business videos, teaching people, doing whatever I could to earn a living. It was just like paid per hour job, right? I have the end of last, I applied for a grant through Creative England. They're based at Elstree Film Studios, and they have an EU fund aimed at helping production companies in Hertfordshire expand so that they can employ more production staff, so that there are more jobs for people who want to work in production. And I applied for a grant for business development, and I found out at the end of the last week that I have been awarded the grant, which is great. Now
Yay!
I don't, yay!
Yay!
I don't personally get that money, but I can use that money to pay for business advice, marketing strategy, finance advice. So I'm hiring three amazing experts. One is a business plan strategist specialist who is going to help me create a brand new business plan for the business. I'm working with a marketing strategist who runs his own film company. I've done a lot of work for him in the past, making animations for him, which he's then got on Amazon, got and sold in the shops all over the place. He's too busy now to do that. So he's going to take me step by step through the process that he does, or that he did, so that I can then do it myself. And I can create the animations myself and get them on Amazon, get them on, on demand television, build up YouTube channels, stuff like that. Now, the problem with all that is if he's not commissioning me to do it, so he's not paying me to do it, I need to get the funding. Third person is an investment specialist who can get my company set up so it's tax efficient in order for people to invest in it, and he will help me draw investment in. So over the next 3 or 4 months, that will all be happening, and I will be now creating my own content that I will be selling, and I will be earning rather than getting paid for an hour for a job. I'm creating products. That's step number one. Step number two, it will be in the business plan. I make training films, I write training films, I use comedy actors, drama performers, um, and I will do more of that, but I think that's probably going to get squeezed between the animation and the really, really big, exciting thing, which is the number 3 or C. I've been working with a writing partner for many, many years on a story which will blow people's minds and really make a difference when it happens. It started as a feature film script 17 years ago, which 6 producers loved. One got on board with it, but the ending wasn't right. So it sat on the shelf for 15 years collecting dust. And talking of self-development and transformation, I went to a self-development workshop, not last Christmas, Christmas before. And when I was in the workshop, I saw something about myself that I understood, which related to one of the characters, and I saw how the film was meant to end. So I replotted it, and went back to my friend Paul, and I said, this is how it needs to end. And he said, I think you've got it. Been reworking that. Now we're in the point of, is it a film script or is it a Netflix series? It's one or the other. It might be an episodic, 6 1-hour episodes, or it might be a 2-hour feature film. But I am drawing people in that want to work with me on it. So that is the thing that will be the big thing. It is. And, like I said, when I was 11, I'm going to make this, I'm going to work in television. I've been saying for so many, I'm going to this story will be out there. It will make a difference. So it will happen. So that's what's happening. It's just like, how, I don't know yet. But what I do know is I put the vision out there, and every day I do something towards it. And it doesn't matter what it is, because it always brings something back. So yesterday I was at a workshop. It was a pitching masterclass. It was at Elstree Film Studios. And we were pitching the idea. So I was practicing pitching the idea. And there were 2 women there who were also there to practice their pitching. One of them works for the production company that created The Office. She is a comedy producer. She loved the idea. And another one who lives just up the road from me is producing feature films. Also loved the idea. So just by out there and say, I'm going to learn, I'm going to improve my pitching, 2 people are potential connections to maybe help step it forward. So yeah, that's the exciting thing. The animation is going to make sure financially I can feed my kids and keep a roof over my head. And while that's happening, the feature film or the Netflix series will happen. So that's the exciting thing. And you didn't hear for it first, because I have told other people, but you've heard for it about 97 or 98.
Well, everyone, watch this space for Neil. He's got some really exciting plans for the near future. And you're a great mind. You're so creative, but you like to have fun at the same time. So I'm looking forward to seeing all of this come together, Neil.
If anyone's out there who is a film producer, or is a financier, or is into kind of romantic comedies with twists and difference and stuff, and it's also got a really strong musical soul to it, like the film Commitments, it's that kind of feel to it. If they want to get involved and they can help move things forward, hey, get in touch.
Well, that ties nicely with my next question, Neil. How can people connect with Neil? How can people do business? How can people follow you? How can people become fans?
Okay, right. Facebook, I'm Neil Ben, Neilben, and it's really easy. My picture is me, and I've got a bright colour waistcoat on, and you'll see me, and they can certainly connect with me on Facebook. My website is neilben.com, neilben.com. If you want to come and see me in comedy, then neilben.com/comedy, and it's got all my dates that I've got gigs, and come along and cheer me on and have a laugh. Tell me, Neil at neilben.com. So, we can get in contact that way, or message me through Facebook. I tend not to do Twitter. I just don't get it. Some people do, some people don't. And of course, I'm on LinkedIn. But again, I prefer talking with people than, sending electronic messages and stuff like that. I'm an old bloke. I tend to like to talk face to face. So if someone wants a cup of tea and a piece of cake, or, some coffee and a biscuit, then that's what I like doing. And I also do
Me
quite
too.
a lot of. I'm based in Watford, so I do a little bit of networking around Watford, St Albans, and that kind of area. And there are various groups. And one of the things I was going to suggest is I'm a member. I don't know if you're aware of 4N. It's a networking group. It's great if you want to practice your speaking, because I've mentioned you've got to get good at your 1 minute elevator pitches, which you can do there. But they have this thing where you can do a 20-minute talk. You just have to book it. You just book it. You don't get paid for it, but it's great practice. And once you're a member of the group, you can go to any group in the country and book to do a 20-minute talk. So I know some people who are speakers who are getting so much practice by booking a 20-minute talk a week all around the southeast of England. And what they do, they take their camera, they stick it on a tripod, they record it. What have they got? They got material for a show reel. What do you need to be a professional speaker? You need a show reel. So by doing that, they're getting the practice, they're getting the content, they're getting the show reel, and that's when they can then move on into. So if you're interested in that, also get in contact. I got direction there.
Well, thank you for your words of wisdom. Everybody, please connect with Neil. He's a great mind. He's got lots of exciting things coming in the future. Neil, thank you for being my guest and giving me your precious time today. I've really enjoyed interviewing you. Thank you, everyone, for watching Brilliant Speaker.
And thank you for asking me. It's been fun.
You're very, very welcome, and I'll speak to you very soon, Neil. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Take care. Until next time. Bye.